Okay, now what I want to do is to take a look at the shape drawing in relation to a concept we sometimes call the Z order. It's a way we do layering. So we'll start with the last exercise, and we can open that up, and it's in our shape object group draw folder, exercise 2, start file. And these are the shapes we drew last time. The first one is a native shape. We can actually select the stroke and the fill. This one is an object drawing. And this one was a native shape that we converted into a group. So I'm going to drag these around and see their order. And generally the order in which you put something on the stage, the last one will be closer to the front. And this is all dependent on the use of layers, and at this point we'll just focus on the use of one layer. So we're really talking about the objects put on one layer, on a single layer. So on this single layer, I'm going to take this drawing object and just drag it around a bit, and you can see it is above the native shape, but it's below the group, and that's because of the order in which they were added. So let's just demonstrate that so we can recall our memory. And I'll go over here and I'm going to use the oval tool, and I'll use a fill color of red just to make it a bit different, and I'll stick with that 12 for the stroke and a black stroke. And so I'm going to draw and then the next item is to make sure the object drawing is off, which now it is. And so I'm drawing a native shape. We have this oval, and you're going to use the selection tool, select it, and drag it around, and we'll notice that this is below everything. And of course we know when we bring it over here, and if we deselect it, there'll be some merging that will occur. And I'll just remind you of that, how that works. And then I'll undo that using the shortcut key on the keyboard. Right. So what we're seeing here is the native shapes are always on the bottom of the Z order, or the furthest back, and we'll see that again. Let's draw that same circle in object mode. Let's go over here, select the oval tool, choose the object mode, go back over to the stage, and draw that. And I'll get the selection tool back in my hand. And we can see that in this case it is above the last object that's on the stage. And you think of a group as an object in general terms. And it's always above the shapes. And so shapes in their native mode are below everything, and then the order in which we add objects to the stage, they appear above each other in that order. Now that's not a permanent result, so we can get rid of these red circles. We don't need them anymore, so I'll select them, and I'll just use the keyboard delete key. And so let's move these closer together, this drawing object and the group. The group was the last item put on of the three you see, and it's above it. So if I want to move it in front or behind, we can use the shortcut menu on the right mouse click, and we have an arrange menu choice that appears for objects. In generic term, groups are an object, so is an object drawing. And we have these choices that you might see in many different graphics packages such as PowerPoint to move things forward and backwards. And so we can bring this all the way to the back, send this all the way to the back, so it's as far back as you can go, but you notice that it's still above the native graphics that are on this particular layer. And so we have this option to bring it to the front and then to move it up and down with the arrange, bring to front. If I select the native graphic and do the same thing, right mouse click, you'll notice that choice does not exist for the selection. And so we'll just rearrange these in somewhat of a symmetrical look. And that's basically it. It's the first item you run into is the layering on a timeline layer, and we might sometimes call that the Z order. And you can see there's a different effect between objects, a generic classification of things we call objects, and native shapes. Okay, you can just save that and you're done.